The story began on the day a seemingly ordinary student named Ayanokoji Kiyotaka commuted to his new high school, the Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School. While riding the bus, Ayanokoji observed a scene unfolding in front of him. A blonde-haired girl was politely asking passengers to offer their seat to an elderly woman so she could rest during the trip. Most of the students ignored her request. Fortunately, one individual gave up their seat, allowing the elderly woman to sit, and the ride continued without further incident. Upon arriving at the school, Ayanokoji made his way to his new classroom. Along the corridor, he was stopped by the same girl from the bus. She confronted him, asking why he had been staring at her earlier. Ayanokoji calmly explained that he wasn't intentionally staring, and that it was nothing significant. The girl responded with a few self-important remarks. Ayanokoji waited patiently for her to finish before heading to class. The Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School was known for its prestigious reputation. It boasted a 100% employment rate for graduates and was said to accept only Japan's most elite students. Ayanokoji joined the other first-year students in the auditorium, where the student council president welcomed them with a formal speech. To Ayanokoji's dismay, he realized that he had been placed in the same class, Class 1D, as the blunt girl from earlier. Even more inconveniently, they were seated next to each other. After orientation, Class 1D gathered in their homeroom, waiting for their teacher to arrive. In the meantime, the temporary class representative suggested that everyone introduce themselves to foster friendships. As introductions began, Ayanokoji grew anxious, unsure of what to say. He feared he might come off as awkward or uninteresting. When it was his turn, he gave a half-hearted introduction, briefly mentioning his dull lifestyle. Despite this, his classmates clapped, appreciating the effort. At that moment, their homeroom teacher entered and introduced herself as Chabashira Sai. She distributed rulebooks and explained that students would be living in dorms with limited permission to leave the school premises. However, she reassured them that the school was fully equipped, complete with a cinema and a beautiful park for relaxation. She also informed them about the school's point system. Each student was allocated 100,000 points per month to spend within the school. Later that day, Ayanokoji went to the school's supermarket to buy essentials and encountered the same girl again. Upon asking for her name, she introduced herself as Horikita Suzune. Ayanokoji noticed she was purchasing only the cheapest items, despite having ample points. He tried to engage in conversation, but Horikita pushed him away, declaring she didn't need friends. Their interaction was interrupted by a loud commotion nearby. They rushed to investigate and discovered that Sudo, one of their classmates known for his temper, had gotten into a fight with students from Class 1C. Ayanokoji intervened to stop the brawl before continuing his day. As the days passed, Ayanokoji noticed that his classmates were forming social groups. He felt increasingly isolated and inadequate at making friends. While walking through the corridor, he was approached by Kushida Kikyo, who asked him about Horikita. She wanted to be friends with her, and hoped Ayanokoji could provide some insights. The school day continued uneventfully. After class, Horikita voiced her concerns to Ayanokoji about how lenient Chabashira seemed with the class. Many students were behaving as if her presence didn't matter. Ayanokoji invited Horikita to join him at the campus cafe, and though she was reluctant, she agreed. At the cafe, they found an empty table and settled in. Moments later, Kushida came over to speak with Horikita. Sensing something suspicious, Horikita excused herself. Kushida begged her to become friends, but Horikita declined and left. Later, Ayanokoji noticed Kushida chatting cheerfully with students from other classes about the point system and monthly allowances. That night, Ayanokoji returned to his dorm, reflecting on how poorly his classmates had managed their points and their indifferent attitude toward academics. He fell asleep with a sense of unease. The next morning marked the beginning of a new month, and the students expected to receive their next allotment of points. However, Chabashira had other plans. She walked into the classroom with a stern expression and delivered shocking news. They would receive no points this month. She explained that points were awarded based on the teacher's assessment of the class, and she had not rated them at all due to their poor behavior and lack of seriousness. Surprisingly, many students didn't take the news seriously. Some even spent their free time lounging at the swimming pool. Horikita joined Ayanokoji by the poolside, and together they observed the lively Kushida playing with other girls. Curious, Horikita asked Ayano Koji about the school's S system, which ranked classes from A to D based on academic performance and conduct. Ayano Koji explained that each class started with 100 points. Misbehavior and poor performance would cause deductions. And to regain points, students had to pass exams and demonstrate to the school that they deserved better rankings. Class 1D, being the lowest ranked, had already lost all its points. He reminded Horikita that she too was part of Class D and couldn't distance herself from them entirely. She observed Ayano Koji's hands and asked if he played any sports. He denied it. At that moment, Kushida emerged from the pool and invited Horikita to swim. Horikita rejected her once again and walked away. Shortly after, the class representative gathered the students and emphasized the need for unity. If they wanted to earn more points and improve their class status, they would have to start working together. From the other side of the pool, Suzune Horikita watched in disgust as her classmates frolicked in the water. Meanwhile, in another room nearby, the student council president was seen congratulating members of Class A for securing 940 points. An impressive accomplishment. After the PE session, the students changed back into their uniforms and returned to class. During the lunch break, Suzune invited Ayano Koji to eat with her. She generously bought him an expensive meal and shared her idea of creating a study group for the academically weaker students in Class D to help them pass the upcoming exams. Although Ayano Koji was reluctant to get involved, Suzune insisted he had no choice. She gave him her contact information and left him to make his decision. Later, Ayano Koji reached out to some of the worst-performing students in class, asking if they would join the study group. Unfortunately, they all declined. That evening, Ayano Koji called Kushida Kikyo through the dormitory's internal phone system. She answered, curious about his call. He requested that she supervise the study sessions for Sudo and the other struggling students. Being kind and accommodating, Kushida agreed and also shared her contact details with him. Soon after, Ayano Koji discovered that Kushida had already convinced the 3 least-performing students to join the group. He then called Suzune to ask if she would allow Kushida to tutor them, but Suzune declined. When Kushida found out, she decided to take matters into her own hands. The next day, Ayano Koji, Suzune, and Kushida organized short interviews for the struggling students. As expected, Suzune harshly criticized each of them, causing many to leave the session feeling demoralized. Afterward, Suzune regretted seeking help from Ayano Koji and Kushida. As Kushida left, she promised to handle the situation herself. Suzune, feeling insulted, demanded to know Kushida's true intentions. Overwhelmed, Kushida left in tears while Ayano Koji quietly observed. That night, Ayano Koji stepped out of his dorm and came across Suzune and her older brother, the student council president, speaking. Her brother was clearly ashamed of her for ending up in Class D, the lowest-ranked group in the school. As tensions escalated, he grabbed Suzune and appeared ready to hit her. Ayano Koji intervened just in time, preventing any harm. The president then turned on Ayano Koji, trying to strike him, but Ayano Koji skillfully dodged every blow. Impressed, the president questioned Ayano Koji's background and eventually learned that Ayano Koji had deliberately scored 50 on all his entrance exams to ensure his placement in Class D. Soon after, the president walked away, leaving Ayano Koji and Suzune to talk. She asked if what her brother said about the entrance exams was true, but Ayano Koji brushed it off as coincidence. Their conversation shifted to the other students and how things were progressing. The following days passed normally. A few days later, Chabashira-sei, their homeroom teacher, announced the results of the midterm exams. To everyone's joy, the class had passed collectively, thanks largely to Kushida's dedication in helping her classmates prepare. The room erupted in celebration. However, Ayano Koji recalled that just 3 days before the test, Sudo had gotten into another fight with students from Class C. Their notorious leader, Rokusuke Ryuen, had appeared to provoke Sudo. Sudo, restrained and nearly humiliated, was only saved by the timely arrival of Ichika, a student from Class B. Ayano Koji stepped in afterward to calm Sudo down and later urged him to join Kushida's study group. Sudo refused and went straight to basketball practice. Later that day, Suzune met Sudo outside the auditorium and handed him notes summarizing key class topics. She warned him that if he wanted to continue playing basketball, he had to keep up his grades. Sudo accepted the notes and left. The next day, Kushida and Ayano met in the cafeteria to purchase midterm past papers from a second-year student. The seller initially demanded 30 points for the papers, but the two successfully negotiated the price down to 15. Once the deal was struck, the seller delivered the past questions. Outside, while taking a break, Kushida asked Ayano if what they were doing was even allowed. He assured her it was entirely legal and within the school's rules. Moments later, the seller messaged them the files. Ayano cross-checked the questions with papers from 3 years prior and confirmed they were identical. Kushida, now excited, offered to distribute them to the class. Ayano asked her to take full credit, as he preferred to remain unnoticed. The day before the test, Kushida handed out the past papers and encouraged everyone to study. Her classmates felt relieved and grateful for her efforts. Back in the present, Chabashira returned with grim news. Although most students had passed, Sudo had scored 39, just 1 point below the passing mark of 40. As a result, he was now facing expulsion. His classmates pleaded with Chabashira to reconsider, but she refused and left. Determined, Ayano followed her to the school rooftop. There, he spoke about virtues and fairness, but Chabashira urged him to get to the point. He asked her to award Sudo the 1 point needed to pass. She laughed and said it was impossible, unless he could offer something in return. She demanded 100,000 points to make the change. Ayano didn't have enough, but Suzune appeared and offered to pay half. Together they agreed to buy the necessary points. Chabashira, cornered by their offer, accepted. That evening, Ayano thanked Suzune for her support. She told him bluntly that her actions were purely for her own benefit. But Ayano wasn't convinced. He noted that she had intentionally lowered her own test score to avoid discouraging the weaker students in the class. Suzune punished Ayano for saying something out loud that he wasn't supposed to. A few hours later, the students gathered in Ayano dorm room to celebrate Sudo's return to school after narrowly avoiding expulsion. During the celebration, some of the students asked Ayano how he had managed to change Chabashira-sensei's mind. He casually replied that it was Suzune who did all the work. After the party, only Ayano and Kushida stayed behind to clean up. As they were about to go to bed, Kushida asked Ayano whether he had feelings for Suzune. Ayano responded calmly, saying Suzune was nothing more than his neighbor. Kushida thanked him for the clarification and left. However, before she got far, Ayano noticed that she had left her phone behind. He followed her to return it, but when he arrived at her room, she wasn't there. Tracing her movements, Ayano found Kushida in a dark corridor, yelling aggressively at Suzune for being overly harsh with her. Startled, Ayano unintentionally revealed himself. When Kushida realized he had seen everything, her demeanor shifted drastically. Her once innocent face twisted into one of rage and malice. She demanded to know whether he had witnessed her outburst. Ayano lied and told her he hadn't seen anything. Unconvinced, Kushida threatened him. She warned that if he ever told anyone what he saw, she would falsely accuse him of assault and destroy his reputation. Ayano caught off guard by the threat, promised to stay silent. In an instant, Kushida returned to her sweet, innocent persona and walked away as if nothing had happened. The next school day, the teacher of Class 1B announced their updated point balance. Meanwhile, Ayano Kushida, and Suzune took the elevator down to their dorms. Ayano couldn't help but recall Kushida's true nature from the night before, surprised to see her acting friendly with Suzune again. Suddenly, Suzune stopped the elevator and exited midway, leaving Kushida standing with a sad expression. Later, Ichinose, a student from another class, approached and asked if Class 1D had received their point update. Both Ayano and Kushida were surprised by the question. In their own class, Chabashira-sensei informed the students that there was an issue with the point distribution, and Class 1D would have to wait a little longer. After class, Ichinose had asked Ayano to meet her privately. He went to a quiet spot on campus and found her already waiting. Without wasting time, Ichinose explained her situation. Someone had left a love letter in her locker, and she didn't want to hurt the person's feelings by rejecting them outright. She asked Ayano to pretend to be her boyfriend for a week to help send a message that she was already taken. Ayano declined, advising her to be honest and tell the person how she truly felt. Just then, the sender of the letter, Shihoro, showed up. Ayano gave them space to talk. Moments later, Shihoro ran out in tears, clearly heartbroken. Ichinose reappeared shortly afterwards, smiling, and thanked Ayano Koji for being there. When Ayano Koji returned to class, he found Sudo yelling that he had been provoked by students from Class C, leading to a confrontation. Shortly after, Chabashira walked in and informed the class that Class C had filed an official complaint against Sudo for attacking 3 of their students. Sudo insisted it was self-defense, but due to his history of anger issues, his classmates found it hard to believe him. That night, Ryuen, the leader of Class C, was seen relaxing in the school bar. One of his injured subordinates arrived to report the incident with Sudo. Rather than showing concern, Ryuen instructed his bodyguard to rough up the subordinate even more, to make him look like the ultimate victim. The following day, Suzune asked Ayano Koji if he regretted not letting Sudo get expelled when they had the chance. Ayano Koji replied that losing a classmate wouldn't help their class improve. Beating the ranking system was a team effort, and they needed everyone to participate. Shortly afterward, the class representative gathered everyone to organize an effort to prove Sudo's innocence. Everyone, including Ayano Koji, agreed to help. However, Suzune withheld her opinion and silently walked away. Later, Kushida met with Ayano Koji and arranged for him to meet with 2 other students after school. That evening, they gathered near the campus fountain. Ichinose also joined and offered her help in clearing Sudo's name. Ayano Koji, however, was wary and declined her offer, suspecting ulterior motives. Ichinose reassured him that she only wanted to support them. That same day, students began their investigation. At one point, Ichinose received an anonymous message containing a clue. She considered paying the anonymous source for more information, but didn't know how to send points anonymously. Ayano Koji helped her, and, during the process, discovered that she had over 2.6 million points, far more than the standard 100,000 points given to most students. Later that evening, the group reconvened at Ayano Koji's dorm to share their findings. Suzune Mirai eventually joined and announced that she had discovered the identity of the anonymous tipper, Sakura. It turned out that Sakura was the only witness to the fight and had seen everything. Meanwhile, in a dark room, Sakura sat alone. Her phone rang. It was Kushida calling, but she ignored the call. Suzune told the others not to worry too much about her, claiming her testimony wouldn't significantly affect the case. That night, Kushida visited Ayano Koji to talk about the situation. They took a walk around the campus, during which Ayano Koji casually began discussing the concept of crime and morality. Kushida, curious, asked whether he truly knew everything about Suzune. Ayano Koji replied that it was impossible to fully understand someone. Kushida seemed ready to ask something more, but stopped herself midway and abruptly walked away. The next day, Kushida approached Sakura to ask about the incident. However, Sakura quickly apologized and ran off, unwilling to get involved. It was clear she feared that participating in the case would expose her secret. Observing her behavior, Ayano Koji suspected she might be hiding a double life, perhaps even working as a webcam girl, but he couldn't confirm it yet. Later, Sakura met Ayano Koji and Kushida at the on-campus mall to repair her camera, which had broken during a prior encounter. The tech repairman, upon inspecting the device, confirmed it was still under warranty and could be fixed. However, his behavior quickly turned inappropriate as he asked Sakura for her personal contact details. Sensing danger, she hesitated. Ayano Koji stepped in and provided his own information, telling the technician to contact him instead. Sakura quietly thanked him for the intervention. As the day wound down, the 3 relaxed in a shaded area. When Kushida excused herself for a bathroom break, Sakura took the opportunity to speak with Ayano Koji in private. She asked whether he thought she should testify. Ayano Koji told her to follow her conscience, but also gently encouraged her to testify for her own peace of mind, not just for others. That night, Kushida asked Ayano Koji to meet her by the Mayfall Fountain, where she confirmed his earlier suspicion. Sakura had been hiding a secret life. She was indeed a webcam performer, and the glasses she wore at school were a disguise to separate that identity from her daily life. While they talked, Sakura texted Kushida, informing her that she had decided to testify. The next day, Suzune confronted Ayano Koji, accusing him of being too close to Kushida and neglecting her. He ignored the remark and focused on the matter at hand. By noon, selected students from classes 1D and 1C were summoned to the student council boardroom, where the student council president served as judge. Ayano Koji arrived with Kushida, Suzune, and Sudo. Class C's representatives came with their legal counsel. As the hearing began, Sudo angrily declared that Class C had provoked the fight. When it was Suzune's turn to speak, Ayano Koji noticed she was visibly tense, frozen in fear due to her brother's presence. He quietly reminded her of their goal and urged her to speak for the class's sake. Regaining her composure, Suzune addressed the Class C boys directly, asking sharp questions. She pointed out how unlikely it was that Sudo, alone, could overpower 3 of them without sustaining injuries himself. Despite her interrogation, the boys denied everything. Then, Suzune called Sakura to testify. Nervously, Sakura stepped forward and explained what she had witnessed during the altercation in the gym. The lawyer from Class C tried to dismiss her claims as hearsay, but Sakura asserted she had evidence, a flash drive containing photos. The president viewed the drive. Initially, the contents seemed irrelevant, with some images even revealing Sakura's secret persona. However, as they continued scrolling, they found a crucial image showing the Class C boys physically restraining and threatening Sudo. With this, the Class C lawyer stepped back and suggested a compromise, a suspension for both parties. Suzune refused to settle for anything but the truth and turned to her brother for a final judgment. The president adjourned the session, promising a ruling at 4 p.m. the next day. After the hearing, Sakura apologized for her nervousness. Ayano Koji reassured her that she had done something brave and should be proud. Later, the president approached Ayano Koji and Sakura, asking if they could truly prove Sudo's innocence. Ayano Koji affirmed that they could, and would. Sakura then opened up. She revealed her background as a lonely, withdrawn girl who had once believed her side job would never catch up with her. However, that belief shattered when she received a threatening message from a fan. The next morning, she found compromising photos of herself placed in her school locker. Meanwhile, Ayano Koji and Suzune discussed their next steps. He lamented the absence of security cameras in the gym, which would have made everything easier. Still, they came up with an idea they intended to execute soon. Back in class, Ayano Koji found Sakura alone and thanked her for helping clear Sudo's name. In return, he promised to protect her moving forward. Grateful, Sakura began to share more. But before she could continue, Ayano Koji received a message from her, confirming that she had already sent a key email. With little time to spare, Ayano Koji headed to the basketball court. Suzune, acting quickly, had sent a message to the Class C boys using Kushida's phone to ensure they wouldn't be able to ignore it. When the group arrived at the basketball court, they found Ayano Koji already there. One of the Class C boys attempted to leave, but Suzune stepped in, blocking his path and urging them to hear Ayano Koji out. As the boys hesitated, she revealed the existence of security cameras that had just been installed around the court. Unaware of the timing, the boys assumed the entire altercation had been recorded. The sudden realization caused them to panic. Ayano Koji remained calm, deliberately speaking in a way that intensified their fear. The boys, now unsure of what evidence might exist, realized that pressing on with their false story could lead to expulsion if the footage exposed their lies. Ayano Koji and Suzune subtly suggested a solution. Withdraw the complaint and pretend the incident never happened. One of the boys reached for his phone, intending to call Ryuen, but Suzune stopped him, stating that wasn't an option. Under pressure, the boys eventually agreed to drop the charges. That evening, Sakura found herself being followed by a stalker into a dimly lit alley. Meanwhile, Ayano Koji was meeting Ichinos to discuss the successful resolution of the case against Class C. Mid-conversation, he received an urgent SOS message from Sakura. He quickly rushed to her location. The stalker, revealed to be the tech repairman who had previously helped fix her camera, had pinned Sakura down and was threatening to expose her secret online unless she complied with his demands. He attempted to open her shirt, but was stopped when Ayano Koji arrived and snapped a photo of the scene. The stalker's identity was now undeniable. Ayano Koji promised to make his life miserable for what he had done. Police officers arrived moments later to arrest the man. Sakura, shaking, told him she had never once considered him a fan, and that he should rot in hell. Afterward, Ayano Koji comforted her, showing how he had tracked her down. He encouraged her to hold her head high and embrace who she was, camera or not. Sakura, blushing, stood up, her confidence beginning to return. Later that day, Sakura met with Suzune and asked how they had managed to convince Class C to drop the complaint. Suzune, in her typical dismissive tone, offered little explanation. However, she warned Sakura to learn everything she could about Ayano Koji before it was too late, hinting at his mysterious and extraordinary abilities. That evening, Ayano Koji unexpectedly ran into the student council president, who commended his handling of the recent conflict and offered him a position as secretary on the council. Ayano Koji declined, expressing a desire to stay out of the spotlight. Elsewhere, Ryuen harshly punished his classmates for withdrawing the complaint and demanded to know who had pressured them. After learning the names, he vowed revenge and, in the rain, met with members of Class A, promising to destroy them as part of a larger plan. Meanwhile, Suzune confronted Ayano Koji, accusing him of manipulating the evidence to coerce Class C into backing off. Ayano Koji walked away in silence, but Suzune stopped him and demanded to know who he really was. Ayano Koji had a brief flashback to a painful past and simply warned her never to pry into his life. Suzune, stunned by his intensity, said nothing more. Weeks passed, and the students completed their final exams. With summer vacation beginning, one morning Suzune got ready for her day. A few days earlier, a group of Class C boys had secretly planned Operation Peep, an attempt to spy on girls in the changing rooms. On the day of the pool trip, Suzune packed her swimsuit and headed out. Along the way, she encountered Harada, the class representative, and his girlfriend, Kikyo, who invited her to join their activities. She declined and continued toward the bus stop. There she found Kushida, as cheerful as ever. Suzune wondered why Kushida still talked to her despite their rocky relationship. Moments later, Sudo, Ike, and Yamochi arrived, and together the group headed to the pool. At the pool, the girls entered the changing room to put on their swimsuits. They began chatting about how close Ayano Koji seemed to be getting with several girls. Kushida tried teasing Suzune into admitting jealousy, but her efforts fell flat. Elsewhere, one of the boys reminded their team over radio that it was time to initiate the operation. Sudo and Ike, pretending to be on guard duty, made sure to keep students near the pool to prevent anyone from approaching the changing area. When Kushida grew suspicious, they quickly suggested a game of volleyball to distract the group. The girls were hesitant at first, but eventually joined in. Meanwhile, Yamochi, disguised as a janitor, placed a "Do Not Enter" sign on the bathroom door and snuck inside with a hidden camera. He struggled to install it in the ceiling, while the girls unknowingly waited outside for the cleaning to finish. Back at the court, Kushida started asking questions about Yamochi's whereabouts and began walking toward the bathroom. Ike, realizing the mission was at risk, signaled the fourth member of their group to call it off. The fourth boy radioed Yamauchi, telling him to abort immediately. Moments later, Yamauchi exited the bathroom in a hurry and rejoined the volleyball game. Trying to salvage the operation, Ike pretended to have a stomachache and rushed to the bathroom to continue what Yamochi had failed to complete. Just then, Ryuen and his crew passed by and noticed the "Do Not Disturb" sign. Their fourth member, positioned nearby, gave Sudo a final signal. It was time to act. After receiving the signal, Sudo rushed to Ryuen and tried to stop him from entering the bathroom. Tension began to rise between them, but before things escalated, Sakayanagi, the queen of Class A, stepped in and diffused the situation. The student council president also intervened, ensuring that no physical altercations occurred under his watch. Meanwhile, Ike, overwhelmed with anxiety, was on the verge of abandoning the plan. However, their lookout gave him a pep talk, reminding him of the time and effort they had all invested. Reinvigorated, Ike regained his confidence and resumed the task. Sudo continued to guard the changing room, preventing anyone from entering. Elsewhere, Ayano Koji, who had intercepted the lookout signals, asked Suzune to distract everyone with a speech about Class D's determination to rise to the top. Suzune agreed and gave a compelling speech that successfully bought Ike enough time to finish installing the hidden camera. Once the setup was complete, Ichika, presumably, entered the changing room unnoticed, removed all the installed cameras, and then joined Ayano Koji by the pool. In a rare moment of levity, Ayano Koji pushed her into the water, encouraging her to relax. Soon after, the rest of the students joined in, and everyone had a great time. That night, Suzune fell asleep with a smile, holding a photo of herself and her classmates enjoying the pool together. Later, Ayano joined Chabashira-sensei, who was watching a school performance of Icarus and Daedalus aboard a luxurious cruise ship. The school had organized the cruise as part of the students' summer vacation. Ayano, unimpressed, called the play a waste of taxpayers' money. Chabashira quickly shifted the conversation to more serious matters. She revealed that a man had come to the school requesting Ayano expulsion. While he hadn't done anything wrong, she reminded him that she held the authority to expel him regardless. She proposed a deal. If Ayano helped Class D rise to Class A, she would ensure his continued enrollment. For the first time, Ayano lost composure, warning her not to double-cross him. But Chabashira made it clear he had no choice. Faced with the threat of expulsion, Ayano reluctantly accepted the deal. The next day, the students emerged from their cabins to explore the cruise ship and admire the open sea. The vessel, named Esperanza, was filled with luxury. As the girls enjoyed themselves, Ike, encouraged by his friends Ayano, Yamauchi, and Sudo, decided to ask Kushida out. Unfortunately, his nerves got the better of him, and he ended up asking a completely unrelated question. Seeing Ike's attempt, Sudo suddenly gained confidence and asked Ayano for information about Suzune, planning to approach her later. That afternoon, the four boys had lunch at the ship's restaurant. Confused by the fancy menu, they called the waiter loudly, drawing attention. When Class A students mocked them, Sudo lost his temper, causing a scene that forced them to leave the restaurant under scrutiny. In another part of the ship, two teachers were receiving massages and discussing their students. Meanwhile, Ayano retreated to his room to reflect on his earlier conversation with Chabashira. Hirata knocked and invited him to hang out, but Ayano declined. Before leaving, Hirata asked if Ayano could help him connect with Suzune. However, before getting a response, Hirata received a call from his girlfriend and left. Elsewhere, Quenji, the flamboyant and eccentric student from Class C, wandered the ship's corridors shirtless. A butler asked him to dry off, but Quenji continued leaving puddles without care. Later, Suzune met with Ayano to discuss the school's real motive behind the luxury cruise. As they spoke, Ryuen passed by, throwing taunts at Suzune. His ex-girlfriend, Ibuki, also appeared, and confronted him about his recent behavior. Ryuen responded rudely, prompting Ibuki to raise her fist in anger. Before she could land a punch, Albert, Ryuen's bodyguard, intervened and roughly pushed her aside. Meanwhile, a teacher received a confidential report from a student named Misumi, thanked her, and instructed her to await further orders. That night, Sakura rehearsed how she would confess her feelings to Ayano. As fate would have it, Ayano appeared behind her and encouraged her not to hesitate. Emboldened, Sakura grabbed his hand and smiled, only for Kushida to arrive moments later. Embarrassed, Sakura fled. Kushida's demeanor shifted to her colder, calculating self. She asked Ayano why he continued avoiding her, but he simply walked away, allowing her to ramble on. The next morning, all the students were called on deck to witness the island they were approaching. Unbeknownst to them, their vacation was about to take an unexpected turn. Soon, the students were assembled and briefed by the teachers. Chabashira announced the beginning of a one-week survival test, designed for all first-year students. Shocked and unprepared, the students listened as she explained the rules. Each class would receive 8 tents and basic provisions to survive for the week on the island. Additionally, each class was allocated 300 special points, which could be used to purchase extra supplies. Any unspent special points at the end of the test would be converted into class points, making resource management essential. To add to the challenge, each class would have an opportunity to guess the leaders of the other classes. A correct guess would earn them 50 bonus points. An incorrect one would result in a 50-point deduction. Back in Class D's camp, the students debated their strategy. While some suggested enjoying the week and spending all the points, Hirata and other serious members argued for careful management, aiming to maximize their class point gains by the end of the test. After the survival test began, the students in Class D faced initial disagreements and tension. Arguments broke out over various issues, one of them being the portable toilets provided by the school. The girls, concerned about hygiene and the risk of infection, refused to use them and insisted the boys purchase a cleaner, more suitable toilet. After considerable debate, the class finally set out into the island's forest to search for a proper campsite. Along the way, Ayanokoji and Suzune discussed strategies to help their class rise to Class A. They continued talking until everyone decided to take a break. Eventually, Hirata stepped up and resolved the toilet issue by agreeing to purchase a better facility for the girls, promoting comfort and cooperation. He then called for volunteers to help scout the forest. Ayanokoji volunteered, and Hirata split the group into teams of 3. Koenji, Ayanokoji, and Sakura formed one group. During the trek, Koenji recklessly leapt through the trees, leaving Ayanokoji and Sakura to struggle behind. After a while, the two stumbled upon a cave. Ayanokoji suddenly recalled Chabashira's instructions. Securing a marked location on the island could grant bonus class points after the test. Additionally, identifying the leaders of other classes correctly could earn extra points. Suddenly, Katsuragi, the leader of Class A, emerged from the cave with a classmate, discussing what they had learned about the island. Ayanokoji quietly held Sakura's mouth and pulled her behind the bushes to avoid detection. Katsuragi sensed something and came to investigate, but didn't find them. Once the coast was clear, Ayanokoji examined the cave and confirmed that it had already been claimed by Katsuragi. When they returned to their own group, they discovered that Ike and Sudo had found a promising campsite with a river and soft grassy ground. Though some students were hesitant, they ultimately claimed the spot. Suzune was appointed class leader and received the key card to register the campsite officially. While the others set up camp, she simply waited until the tents were up before entering hers. That evening, a classmate asked Ayanokoji for advice on how to confess to Sakura. Later, Ayanokoji, Sakura, and the student took a walk in the forest and discovered Ibuki, injured and abandoned. Despite her reluctance, the Class D group offered her shelter. Back at camp, the girls returned with fresh fruit, and Ike was praised for starting the campfire. Over dinner, Ike apologized to the girls for not supporting them earlier about the toilet. Hirata later gave a detailed explanation on how they could ration their special points throughout the week and still finish with 120 points remaining. Later, Kushida and several other students took care of Ibuki. Not long after, they discovered Koenji had returned to the cruise ship, claiming to be sick. This frustrated the group, as the absence of a classmate could lead to penalties from the teachers. In a brief flashback, a young Ayanokoji was shown solving advanced calculus problems in what appeared to be a controlled experimental environment. A supervisor reminded him to use his extraordinary abilities wisely. By day 2, students caught fish and gathered fruit. Hirata assigned chores and distributed rations fairly. Later, Ayanokoji and Suzune went out for reconnaissance. Suzune remarked that she was surprised Ayanokoji was helping her. He explained that it was necessary to protect her from Ryuen and his underhanded tactics. She quietly agreed. After walking some distance, they encountered Ichinose, who led them to Class B's campsite. Ayanokoji and Suzune admired its organization before continuing. Eventually, they stumbled upon a Class A guard stationed outside a cave. Ayanokoji encouraged Suzune to challenge the guard. Katsuragi, inside the cave, overheard the conversation and came out. He warned them not to cause trouble. Choosing to avoid conflict, Ayanokoji and Suzune moved on. At their next stop, they came across Class C's base, where Ryuen greeted them smugly. Suzune questioned him about the reckless spending of Class C's special points, to which Ryuen casually replied that he had nothing left to lose. When asked why Ibuki was injured and left alone, he coldly admitted he had beaten her. He repeated that he didn't care about consequences now that they had no points left. As they walked back, Ayanokoji mentioned to Suzune that, surprisingly, Ryuen's 0-point strategy might actually be clever, since his class could now enjoy the rest of the week without pressure. On the morning of day 3, an unknown figure sneaked into one of Class D's tents and stole something from Kikyo's bag. A few hours later, the group was awake and prepared for the day. By day 4, Ayanokoji and Sakura hiked deeper into the forest, eventually reaching the Class C camp, only to find it abandoned. There, they met Ichinose and a few Class B students, who were also investigating. Ayanokoji asked Ichinose about Katsuragi, and she explained that he was a conservative strategist, in contrast to Sakayanagi, the reformist leader of Class A. Later that evening, Class D students speculated on why Class C had seemingly quit. Some assumed they had simply grown tired of the test. Sudo approached Ibuki to ask about her class, but she reacted violently and insulted him for having abandoned their shelter earlier. On day 5 of the special test, chaos broke out when Kikyo's underwear was reported missing. The girls immediately accused the boys of theft and demanded that Hirata investigate. All the boys were lined up, holding their bags out for inspection. Just before the search began, Ike decided to check his own bag, and to his shock, he discovered the missing underwear inside. It became clear that someone had planted it there to frame him. Panicked, Ike handed the underwear to Ayano Koji and quickly rejoined the lineup to avoid suspicion. Ayano Koji, realizing Ike was being framed, quietly questioned who the real culprit could be. Hirata completed his inspection but found nothing. Still unconvinced, the girls insisted on a pat-down. Hirata hesitantly began the process again, and when he reached Ayano Koji, he felt the underwear in his pocket. To everyone's surprise, Hirata chose not to expose Ayano Koji, acting calmly and professionally. Later that evening, Ayano Koji approached Hirata to ask why he had covered for him. Hirata replied that he trusted Ayano Koji completely and knew he wasn't the thief. He took responsibility and told Ayano Koji to find the real culprit so his sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. Following the incident, the girls decided to move their tents away from the boys to avoid future problems. They assigned Hirata to help with the relocation, but Suzune insisted that another trustworthy boy, Ayano Koji, join him, just to ensure Hirata didn't sniff anything, as she jokingly put it. While Hirata was called away to assist with something else, Ayano Koji finished moving the tents on his own. As he wrapped up, Ibuki approached him and expressed concern that others suspected her of stealing the underwear. She asked what he thought. Surprisingly, Ayano Koji said he trusted her, which left Ibuki momentarily stunned. She thanked him and left. Afterward, Ayano Koji returned to the spot where they had first found Ibuki and searched the surrounding bushes. He discovered something suspicious, but didn't reveal what it was yet. A few hours later, Suzune joined Ayano Koji by the campfire. They spoke briefly, but Ayano Koji quickly pointed out that he knew she was sick and had been hiding it. She tried to deny it, but her trembling body betrayed her condition. He checked her temperature and confirmed she had a fever. The next morning, Ayano Koji, Ike, and Suzune set out early to gather food. As they searched, Ayano Koji discreetly asked Suzune about the leader keycard, and she confirmed she carried it at all times. He requested to see it. Hesitant at first, Suzune eventually trusted him and revealed it before quickly putting it away again. Suddenly, Yamauchi appeared and smeared mud on Suzune's head. Annoyed, she threw him into the river. He might have drowned had Ayano Koji not pulled him out in time. Later that day, Suzune bathed under a waterfall to clean up. When she returned to camp, Ayano Koji noticed Ibuki was missing. Shortly after, Suzune asked to speak with him privately. In the woods, she admitted something devastating. Her keycard had been stolen. Ayano Koji stayed calm and told her to keep it secret while they investigated. Suzune suspected Kikyo due to their strained relationship, or possibly Class A's eccentric student. But Ayano Koji defended Kikyo and said he planned to confront Ibuki instead. When the conversation ended, Suzune asked for some alone time to reflect. Minutes later, she smelled smoke and ran back to camp, where she found that someone had set a fire and burned the instruction manual. Panic spread as students blamed each other. Ayano Koji stayed silent, carefully observing everyone's reactions. Kushida asked if anyone had seen Ibuki. She was nowhere to be found, indicating she may have escaped. Sudo, piecing things together, deduced that Ibuki was the spy all along. The group turned to Hirata for leadership, but he was too overwhelmed to respond. Ayano Koji calmed him down, and Hirata resumed his role, assigning tasks. Meanwhile, Suzune tracked down Ibuki as she was walking away from the camp. She confronted her about the stolen keycard. Ibuki refused to hand it over and then noticed Suzune's weakened state. Taking advantage, she attacked her. Despite Suzune's best efforts, she was overpowered. Ibuki left her on the ground and completed her mission by delivering the stolen keycard to her handler. She took out a radio and called Katsuragi of Class A, informing him the mission was a success. Hours later, Suzune regained consciousness beneath a tree, with Ayano Koji nearby. She tearfully told him about Ibuki's betrayal and her own failure to stop her. Ayano Koji listened and advised her to withdraw from the test so she could recover from her injuries. Suzune broke down in tears, blaming herself for everything that had gone wrong during the test. Ayano Koji, observing her emotional state, gently asked why she was so determined to reach Class A. Through tearful eyes, Suzune admitted that she desperately wanted her brother's approval and was willing to do whatever it took to earn it. Realizing she could no longer continue the test, Ayano Koji carried her to a teacher checkpoint and requested that Chabashira take care of her. However, this meant Suzune would have to withdraw. Ayano Koji assured the teacher he was fine and left her in her care. Word spread quickly throughout Class D about Suzune's illness and the stolen leader keycard. Ayano Koji informed Hirata that it was Ibuki who had stolen the card, and with limited time left, they needed to act quickly to salvage their standing. On the final day of the test, each class packed up their campsite and prepared to leave. The teachers handed out forms asking students to guess the leaders of the other classes. Back at the Class D camp, Ayano Koji quietly wrote down the names he believed to be correct and submitted them. Later, the teachers gathered all the students and officially announced the end of the special test. Suddenly, Ryuen emerged from the bushes, battered and dirty. It turned out he had remained hidden on the island all along. Katsuragi thanked him for helping Class A gain over 500 points. Flashbacks revealed that on the first day of the test, Katsuragi had struck a secret deal with Ryuen. Ryuen would plant spies in other classes to steal their leader keycards, allowing Class A to correctly guess the leaders and earn bonus points without risking deductions. To ensure complete secrecy, Ryuen had deliberately spent all of Class C's points, then retreated into the forest to await updates from his spies. Their plan worked perfectly, and Ryuen submitted his answers with confidence. Finally, the teachers announced the test results. Last place, Class C, 0 points. Third place, Class A, 120 points. Second place, Class B, 140 points. First place, Class D, 225 points. The crowd was stunned. No one could understand how Class D managed such a comeback. After the results were revealed, the students returned to the cruise ship. Suzune found Ayano Koji and approached him for a private chat. Meanwhile, Hashimoto, one of Sakayanagi's followers, confronted Katsuragi and smugly celebrated Class A's loss. Elsewhere, a few students from Class B discussed the possibility of switching classes to join Ayano Koji's. Ibuki, feeling the weight of her failure, apologized to Ryuen. Meanwhile, Ayano Koji privately revealed everything to Suzune. He confessed that he had figured out early on that Ibuki was a spy. When he had asked Suzune to show him the leader keycard, he had done it intentionally, knowing Ibuki would be watching. By making it easy for her to steal the card, he set the perfect trap. His true aim had been to trick Ibuki into stealing the key and reporting to the wrong person. Through careful observation, he had correctly identified all the leaders of the other classes. Suzune, visibly impressed, asked why he went to such lengths to help them. Before he could answer, the other Class D students gathered around to congratulate her, believing she was the reason for their victory. Kushida pulled Ayano Koji aside and confessed she hated Suzune. Then she asked him who he would choose between the two of them. Ayano Koji chose neither. As their conversation ended, he received a message from Chabashira, requesting to meet him in the theater. When Ayano Koji arrived, Chabashira praised his intellect and strategic planning. He asked her for proof about the man who had requested his expulsion. She avoided specifics but assured him she knew everything about him and encouraged him to continue his excellent work. Elsewhere, Ibuki learned that Ryuen would now be rewarded with several thousand points each month, revealing that his true motive had been financial gain, not class success. Later, Suzune confronted Ayano Koji, accusing him of setting her up to take credit for his victory. He responded by telling her that she was starting to change, and she'd need allies moving forward. Suzune blamed him for that change, but reluctantly named Ayano Koji as her first ally and thanked him for everything. In his thoughts, Ayano Koji revealed a chilling truth. He didn't see Suzune, or anyone, as an ally. They were all simply tools to be used in a world where only winners were celebrated. And if that wasn't psychopathic, what was? That is it for today. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Also, press the bell icon to get the notification of the new video. Goodbye.